6 tonight, a Gunnison woman charged with murdering her 29-year-old brother.
It was on August 14th of 2015. Deborah Rudibaugh came in to report Jacob Millison is missing.
It was really kind of surreal because in our little community, things like this don't normally happen. So it was almost like it was out of a soap opera.
So, can you just give an overview of what happened with the case?
Yeah. Okay. So there was a family living up Ohio, not Ohio Creek, but I forget, right outside of Pitkin. And it was a woman, she was about 68, named Deborah Rudibaugh, and her son, whose name's Jacob Millison. Different last names, different, Deborah had been previously married. And the son went missing, and his friends were really concerned about him. Oh, and he had told his friends, he said, if anything ever happens to me, it's because of my family. He had told them that. And so he didn't return their calls, and they started getting worried, and they went up to the ranch. It's called Indian Head Ranch. It's like 7 miles up this road outside of Pitkin, pretty remote. And they asked his mom, why isn't he returning our calls? Where is he? And she said, well, he had to leave in the middle of the night because he had to go to Arizona for a kung fu thing because he was really into martial arts. And they were like immediately suspicious because his truck was there. And they were like, well, how did he get out of here? And she said he drove with someone else. But his dog is still here, they said. Well, he couldn't take his dog. And so they were super suspicious from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And they went to the sheriff's office and filed a missing persons report. And that was before his mom filed a missing. And so like a month had gone by.
The time that the sheriff's office went up to the ranch and contacted Jacob's mom, Deborah Rudibaugh, and she started giving us some stories about that he left with a friend of his, and she thought he was camping in Nevada or maybe joining an MMA camp or something because he was in jiu-jitsu. They weren't getting along, stuff like that, and we really didn't have much to go on. That's kind of when we started investigating the case. Some of his friends that kind of put it together because they had a Facebook page, and it was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. So you should look at that. But that just did spark something. Throughout the family was not honest with us, but his friends were very persistent and would give us little leads, sometimes almost daily in the beginning. And we kept listening to them, and every lead we would try to go as far as we could with it. And I got to give them credit for not giving up.
They kept going out to the ranch to visit, and one time when they went out there, she was actually burning a mattress. Mm-hmm. And they were like, what are you doing? Why are you burning his mattress? And she said, well, the dog was sleeping on it and he had fleas, and so I had to burn the mattress. And then another time they went out there, and both Deborah and her daughter, Jacob's sister, Stephanie Jackson, were standing by the horse corral with shovels. And so anyway, the friends were just like, this is not right. Something is totally going wrong. He would totally call us back. And then she told the friends that, oh, actually he dropped his cell phone when he was leaving in the middle of the night, and I found it in the ditch, and it was in the water, and so his cell phone's not working, and that's why it's not working. Anyway, they didn't believe her, and they kept going back to the sheriff's department, and eventually the sheriff's department got a search warrant.
Until the 17th of July of 2017, where we had enough information and we applied for and received a search warrant for the ranch. One of the biggest search warrants that this sheriff's office has ever anticipated to conduct. At that time, we didn't know what we were going to find, but we were prepared with, I think it was about 67 people, several dog teams, multiple agencies.
Wow.
We were going to search every square inch of over 700 acres. And we were prepared to do this for days, okay? But like I say, CBI, every agency around here, that would include Parks and Wildlife and Mount Crested Butte, search and rescue groups, the dogs came from as far as Virginia.
And they went up and said, we're going to search the property. And they in the meantime, Deborah had filed her own missing persons report. So he went missing in June. And by the time she filed her missing persons report, it was almost August, I think. So it took her a long time. And then they finally got the search warrant. I think it was in September or October. And they went out to the ranch, and they had been interviewing her a lot. Where is this guy? Where did he go? Where's your son? And her story was fairly consistent, but her story changes.
We've got a total of 85 supplement reports to the homicide case. So there was many interviews, and it's just unbelievable how much legwork was done by Colorado Bureau of Investigations and our investigations. This is probably the biggest in our history.
But when they searched the property, they found human remains in the horse corral, buried under a big pile of manure and sheep remains. Because they butcher sheep at this ranch, and she'd put sheep heads in on top of his body to try to cover the smell, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, super gruesome. And so they arrested her, and then eventually arrested the sister 2 days later. And they're both still in, they're in jail right now. They keep pushing back their court date. But so that's the basic overview. So it took months, and the friends were really instrumental because they were the ones that kept pressing the sheriff, this is not right. There's all these weird things that are going on up there. What's confirmed is that he was shot in the head in his bedroom, and then his body was discovered in the horse corral, buried in a big hole. The gun had belonged. It didn't have Deborah's prints on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they couldn't find any fingerprints on it. The body was in a second story of this cabin, and Deborah is 68 years old, and she had recently had gallbladder surgery. So she was on pain meds, and she had stitches and all kinds of stuff. So the sheriffs were like, how did you move his body by yourself? Because she kept claiming she's doing it by herself. And she proceeded to tell them how she did it. But the sheriffs have always been suspicious because Deborah confessed to the murder. The mom confessed to the murder. But the sheriff's department's always felt that the daughter has been involved as well, because she was seen at the horse corral with the shovel, and she really had a motive, because basically the mother owned this ranch, and in her will, originally she was leaving the ranch to Jacob and Stephanie Jacob kept asking her to change her will to leave it just to him, according to her. But another thing that's confirmed is that she did change her will, but she changed it to leave it to Stephanie, not to Jacob. So then you have to ask, well, why would Stephanie kill Jacob if she's going to get the ranch no matter what when Deborah dies? But the sheriff's department believes that Stephanie was involved on some level, whether she pulled the trigger or whether she was there to move the body and bury the body. And so the sheriff has charged both Stephanie and Deborah with first-degree murder and tampering of a corpse and desecration of a corpse. But I guess what's still speculation is who actually pulled the trigger, because Deborah's confessed to it, but both of them have been arrested for that crime. So Stephanie really has more of a motive, I think, because she was desperate to be the only person alive to get the ranch. Deborah said she killed Jacob because Jacob was being violent with her, and demanding that he be the sole inheritor of the property. But the sheriffs have questioned that because, number one, she never called the police about any kind of domestic assault or anything like that. She didn't have any bruises on her. She, she said that her story changed a lot. At first, when they first interviewed her, she never said anything about him being violent. Then as subsequent interviews, she starts saying, oh yeah, he's violent to me. And so that's speculation, but that's what she says is her reason for killing him. That he was putting her in chokeholds and threatening her and putting his knee on her chest and, threatening her. But all of his friends say he was a really gentle guy. He didn't do drugs. He didn't do alcohol. And like I said, she never made any reports to the police about domestic violence. Speculation, how much was the daughter involved? I think that's the biggest question. And I think most people around here probably believe that the daughter was involved on a deep level because she's so much younger. The other thing about Deborah is that Deborah has terminal cancer.
Yeah.
And so she has nothing to lose in some ways to confessing to the crime. Stephanie is a young woman with a child, and she has more to lose going to prison.
The part I found the most interesting was when the mother claimed that she used Yankee Ingenuity to get her 180-pound son out of the house when she only weighed 80 pounds. So I thought that was very interesting.
She sat in the house for 3 days with the body. She said, I had to get my act together before I could figure out what to do next. And then she says, some of the stuff I didn't put in the story. I mean, I didn't put in the details of how she says she got the body out of the house. I mean, she says she tied a rope around his head and pulled him down the stairs with like a backhoe, or I don't know if that's a winch. I guess it would be a winch. And then she had the backhoe parked right by her door, and then scooped the body up with this backhoe scoop, drove it over to the manure pile, and put it in the manure pile. And I don't think I put all that in the story because that was just too. But then she said the body was in the manure pile, and Stephanie, the daughter, came out to visit or something and saw the part of the body and confronted Deborah. This is Deborah's story, which doesn't seem feasible to me at all. Mom, why is there bones in the manure pile? And then Deborah said, well, you have to help me get rid of those. She said it was like an animal kill from coyotes or something. And
Which
is really, I mean, you would know what human bones look like, and it wouldn't have been bones at that point anyway. It was less than, what Deborah says is, it was less than a week later, Stephanie came, and then they moved the body from the manure pile, and they dug a 5-foot deep hole, and then put the body in there and covered it with the sheep remains. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, what is your impression of each family member?
A lot of dysfunction, a lot of violence, a lot of animosity towards each other, a lot of greed. I've heard subsequently that Deborah married the owner of this ranch when this man was in his late 70s, pushing 80s, and Deborah was much younger. So, you know, she was kind of, I mean, the speculation is she was looking for a honey pot or whatever. She wanted somebody with some money. So that's my take on her. Picture when she was arrested, she's smiling.
Yeah,
which is so crazy. That's her smiling. And she, you know, she has no remorse. She's never said, I feel terrible, I feel bad, I miss my son. She's never said anything like that. She's just been very cold about the whole thing. And Stephanie, I haven't read her arrest affidavit. I didn't get it. So I don't know her as well as I think I know Deborah. But Stephanie, if she was involved the way Deborah says she was, she's ruthless. I mean, this is like her brother you're talking about, and she's digging a hole and burying his body in it. I mean, it's ruthless and twisted. And I feel really sorry for Stephanie's son. She has a son, and I feel really bad for him growing up knowing maybe that this happened with his family.
Yeah, so what do you think about Stephanie's husband, David? Do you have any...
I don't know that much about him. I mean, he comes up in this. Deborah says that he showed up to help bury the body, and so that's part of why he was arrested. And then there was this other charge, which I didn't even know anything about. There was another case involving Stephanie and David, which David said Stephanie pulled a gun on him. I don't even know anything about that case except for that. So I mean, anybody who helps bury a rotting corpse is, you know, they've got something wrong with them. That's not normal.
You know, I really don't know the family, but from what we found out, I know they weren't being honest with us during most of throughout this investigation.
The amount of press coverage, I think, has been overwhelming for a town such as this. I heard that 2020 was interested in doing a video presentation on it, maybe an hour-long show, as well as other major news outlets, which just does not happen around here.
My beat for the newspaper is to cover the county, and so this just happened to be in the county under my beat. You know, it wasn't part of Mount CB, it wasn't part of CB, but it's still part of the county. So, and we kind of first heard about it through the Facebook stuff that his friends were posting, and then when the two of them got arrested, the mother and the daughter got arrested, I was down at the courthouse for something else, and the court clerk told me that they were about to release her arrest affidavit, which is this. This is like 30 pages of all of the interviews that she conducted with the sheriff's department, and as well as like the evidence and stuff that they talk about, and this is public record. So I paid for this, but I was able to get this on like a Tuesday, and then we go to press on Thursday. So I read it and then wrote the story from there.
You know, when we made the arrest, I was completely inundated by the press.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, all the way to the New York Times, you know. 2020, 48 Hours, all kinds of people. So I didn't let out too much information, but it was probably within a week or two, and the courts made the arrest affidavit public, and that has just got a ton of stuff in it, and it's unbelievable how much the public knows, okay?
It's just too disturbing for his friends to read that.
Yeah, I did read a few Denver Post articles that did.
They did more, I know, because they didn't have the sensitivity. I mean, they're not writing for a local audience, so it's more sensational. Yeah.
Have there been any other cases similar to this in the county?
Nothing really this big. Back in the, I think it was like 74, 75, Michelle Wallace got killed, and her remains were found like 20 years later up by Kebler Pass. And a guy, Roy Millison, got convicted of that and is in prison. We've had several like murder-suicides.
I have heard, I did hear after Jacob went missing, Deborah and Stephanie would like go out into the town and go out to dinner, and people would like look at them like this isn't right. You've done something wrong. And so there was a lot of suspicion, I think, in the community from the beginning. But as far as how it's affected the rest of the community, I think the trial is going to be a circus, because I think there's going to be national media here, because the story made national media. And so if they plead not guilty and if it goes to trial, I think it'll be kind of a, like I said, a circus with media everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're so small. And yeah, so my next question was, how's the national media attention like altered Gunnison County at all?
I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's like I said, I think the trial will be, you know, like it'll be sensationalized, and it'll be in the national media again once they get to trial. I imagine that the media attention's been kind of overwhelming, maybe for the sheriff's department, because they're not used to having to field so many calls from so many different reporters and things like that, but they've never said anything like that to me. It's just speculation.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been reading so many articles, and it's Denver Post, it's Daily Mail, it's a lot of stuff that's never been seen here.
Right, yeah, and I think that'll come back around too once the trial happens, if it happens. If they plead guilty, then there won't be a trial. But,
yeah. So how could this case change things in the future, such as like police policy in the county?
I did ask the sheriff. I said there was a long delay between when they discovered the body and when they actually arrested Deborah and Stephanie. I think it was like 6 months or something. And some people were wondering and asking my editor about that. Like, why did it take them so long if they had the body right there and they had a confession? And when I asked the sheriff about that, he said, you know, I asked the sheriff, I said, weren't you worried that they were going to flee? Because they knew that you guys were watching them, they discovered the body already, you know. And actually, I think I'm messing that up, because I think when they discovered the body, they put them under arrest right away.
Yeah, I think it did take a little bit, but they did, once they like, knew it was his human bones. Human bone,
yeah. Anyway, they said, I asked the sheriff, I said, were they under surveillance? Like, were you keeping a watch on them? And he said no, but it's such a small place that if they had left, we would have known, and it would have looked really bad for them if they had left. So, but he said it took a while because they had so much DNA evidence in the house and in the barn and stuff, and so they had to get all that taken care of before they made the arrest, especially of Stephanie. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that's it. If you have anything else you'd like to share.
I don't think so. It was it was a pretty exciting story to write, and I'm curious about what happens next. I'll be covering it, but
Oh, cool.
yeah, until August when we go back to school. So
Yeah.